Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the ESO Cast, your Elder Scrolls Online podcast. It is Friday, March the 15th. I'm joined here once again by Jesse Cox, this time on Twitch. Hey, Jesse, how's it going?
Hi. Wow.
We're on Twitch TV now.
Format
today. It's a new thing. Have you heard? I don't know if you've heard about it, but Twitch is sort of this thing that people do. You know, it's probably, maybe this whole thing is for the best. A quick little backstory for you guys. I'm basically forced to do my live stream on Twitch now because I can't on YouTube because LucasArts hates me. And they
They're not even a thing anymore.
LucasArts and Disney Incorporated or whatever.
That's what did it. Disney came after you.
Disney's like, I hate you. So
for those of you who aren't aware, yesterday there was a bunch of news that came out, and it was Star Wars related.
Star Wars First Assault. There was footage on Kotaku, and pretty much everyone posted about it.
Everyone and their brother,
yeah.
Everyone posted about it, and apparently, it happened to the Game Station news show as well. And so, I don't know why, but apparently they just decided to flag everyone who talked about it.
Yeah, so as a result, I can no longer stream on YouTube until basically my copyright flag for my channel gets lifted. And so we're going to be doing this on Twitch for the time being, and we'll see how that goes. So Twitch is a better platform anyway, so I'm sure it'll be fine. But anyways, how you doing this week, Jesse? Doing good?
Good. I'm really worn out.
Oh yeah? Busy week?
StarCraft, man.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Exploded my brain.
So you're playing through the campaign? Is that what's going on there?
Yeah, I'm in a weird place of where I'm on the last two missions, but I have a thing where if I play a game and I get to the end, I really start to drag at the end, mostly because I know it's going to be over, and then I just won't get to... I'll be like, all right, well, that was a thing. Moving on with my life. And so usually I actually have several games, like several RPGs that I get to the end, and I'm like, this is the last level. I'll come back to it so I can really appreciate it, and I just never beat it. Like, but I played it, so I feel good. But,
yeah. The campaign's supposed to be shorter, right? I heard it was only 20 missions as opposed to, like, the 30 or so in Wings of Liberty.
Yeah, as an example, for those of you who follow my channel, right now there are 16 episodes up, and of those 16, 3 of them are me, like, getting evolutions for my Zerg, and there's a few more of those, but actual missions... 14 plus, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 23, 21, 20, look, math is not, there's 20-something, and so, yeah, it's fun, I mean, it's really cool, but I do sometimes find myself thoroughly angered by Blizzard, and there's some things they do. I'm sure you're aware, as we did our Diablo cast.
Yeah, right.
There's some things they do story-wise that aggravate me to no end. Like, I just don't understand characters' motivations sometimes.
No, it's the case with any game or any series or IP that drags on over time. It's eventually, they really start stretching things a little thin, and things start to get a little crazy, so hopefully that doesn't happen with Elder Scrolls Online.
No, there's too much lore there. That'll never be a thing.
That's true. Anyways, let's as much as I love StarCraft, and I do plan to take a look at this game, let's move on to what everyone wants to hear about, which is the Elder Scrolls Online. So we're going to go ahead and start off with some news, a bunch of new stuff to talk about this week, which is really exciting. First, let's get some of the store stuff out of the way. Specifically, the new Bethesda Online merchandise store. So this is a new thing. You can buy Bethesda gear from all of your favorite franchises or IPs right now on the store.bethesda.com. And what was really exciting, the first time I opened up the store, I immediately saw something I wanted to purchase, like, oh crap, this is a bad start. So they've got this Skyrim Alduin's Wall hoodie. I just think it's the coolest looking thing ever. I am a hoodie guy. I like to wear hoodies. I think they're comfortable. I like the little thing that goes over your head there. The hood. And so and it's got a neat little pattern to it as well. It's got this neat little design. So yeah, it's Bethesda gear. So we're talking, the The Elder Scrolls, we're talking Fallout, we're talking Dishonored. I mean, those are some great franchises to have some apparel for. I might have to get this. I might have to purchase Alduin's Wall hoodie. I like it.
I have yet to go here. Right now, I'm going. You've forced me to go.
Yeah, you gotta take a look. There's some cool stuff, and they do it by brand, so you can search for Dishonored, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, Quake, or Wolfenstein gear. What is that all about? That's
wow.
There's a Wolfenstein T-shirt. All right, well let me go. I'm gonna go to the Elder Scrolls Online gear. I want to see what they have right now. So not a lot right now for the Elder Scrolls Online.
But really quickly, just so people are aware, it's not stored up Bethesda.com. You caused me some trouble.
Oh, geez, sorry. Store.bethsoft.com. So BETH.
Bethesda.com. I'm like, why is it at the city?
Yeah, right. Yeah, sorry. So it's store.bethsoft.com, and most of the gear, if you're looking for Elder Scrolls stuff, is just going to be found under the Elder Scrolls brand. There's, I guess, a whole bunch of different things there. And actually, the second thing that I wanted to talk about, because this was something that was also featured on the Elder Scrolls Online main page, is there's a new Dragonborn statue that's available for sale. Looks like you can get it here as well. So it's a little Dragonborn statue of the guy from the commercials and all that stuff. I think
awesome.
They're modeling the character after that actor. It seems that way.
So,
you know how they did those live action things for Skyrim?
Right.
Yeah,
No,
so.
I was distracted by the incredible Alduin's Wall hoodie.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Isn't that thing awesome?
Yes.
Like I kind of need that.
Badass.
It's on pre-sale though. Damn it! I mean, I have to wait. I hate waiting. I think we've talked about this, Jesse. I'm an impatient person. I hate waiting for things. Pre-sale?
So we're gonna talk about.
I gotta wait till March 25th. I don't want it anymore.
Yeah, it's
forget
right
it.
now.
I mean, it's a real problem. It's a real problem for me. It's a real problem. Like, here's a great example. I'm fully aware that many times, like purchasing electronics and stuff, you get a much better deal when you buy online and you wait for it to ship. I don't want to wait 2 days. I don't even want to, if I need something, I'm going to the Best Buy. I'm going to spend twice as much, but I need it now. It's stupid. So I just need to chill out, learn some patience. And I mean, this is awesome though. I definitely, I think I'm gonna have to get this. It's pretty cool looking.
I'm looking at the Dishonored stuff. I feel bad because I think their Dishonored stuff's cool, but I feel like they got shown up by there's a Kickstarter. These guys are doing like video game shirts on Kickstarter. But they're all really stylized and crazy looking. And they have one for Dishonored there that is the best. So
showing up the Bethesda store.
Yeah, sorry, Bethesda store.
Yeah, well.
But that Alduin's Wall hoodie is awesome.
Pretty badass, I have to say. So yeah, check that out if you guys want to spend money. And actually, I'm really pleased by this. A lot of times this stuff is absurdly priced, but the sweatshirt, it's $60, which it might sound that seems reasonable to me. Like, I would. Honestly, I think I look at stuff like this and I'm thinking it's pushing $80 to $100. But the fact that it's only $60, I think that's within the range of reason. So I'm pleased that they went that route.
You're paying for fanboyness. On
yeah,
that one.
well, of course.
You're not paying, it's not like you could go down and get a hoodie for
get a champion sweatshirt.
$12. Yeah. $12 hoodie. But you're paying to have a badass wall cover your body, so that's what that's about.
And if you're an artistic type, just buy a regular sweatshirt. You can get that iron. There's like this iron-on stuff you can do. You can get some markers.
They have a giant dragon wall. But
yeah,
okay,
you could. I mean, come on, you can do that. It's just a piece of cake. Buy a black hoodie and just sketch that. So you're artistically capable, right, Jesse? You could do this.
Yeah, mine would be stick figures and that's about.
But they would be detailed stick figures. That's the thing.
UFOs.
Right.
You should see. I actually have old binders from high school downstairs in like a box somewhere. You should see those because on the sides of every single one is just doodles, notes and doodles, and I feel like I learned nothing except how to draw.
You must have drawn. You know those S's that like intertwine with each other.
Oh, you know what?
You do 3 lines on top,
yes,
3 lines on bottom, and then you connect them.
I figured out how to draw like all sorts of different I think I learned how to do 3D like perspective drawing while in science class. Not in an art class. I just was so bored. I was like, look, I'll never use science. That's not a thing. Mwah. Thank you, science.
Did you? I guess we don't have to talk about what you learned from science, because obviously nothing, so.
No. And science keeps changing all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't even know what
they don't even know what's going on. I mean, you look at something like the Bible, that's been set in stone forever.
We're gonna get letters now.
I know. I'm sorry.
I was about to say, when I was in high school, Pluto was still a planet.
Yeah, what now, science?
Thanks, science.
Holy crap. I think someone just broke into my house. Our door slammed. All right, anyways, moving on. So, yes, that is the Science Aside, the Bethesda store, now available. Purchase Bethesda-related gear, some really awesome Elder Scrolls stuff. Again, not much for the Elder Scrolls Online yet, but I'm assuming that will change in the future. Moving on, there is now an Elder Scrolls Online Tumblr page, because people still use Tumblr. Now,
I do. I love Tumblr.
It's just not. There's too many social sites like Twitter and Facebook, and I got Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. I'm content with those.
You don't Pinterest? I want to see the Elder Scrolls Pinterest.
Yeah.
What is the world of Tamriel Pinterested in?
What are you interested in, Tamriel?
No,
Pinterested in, yes. It'd be something like it'd have to be relevant to the times. It'd be like
armor.
Yeah, the Armor Emporium.
Right. different styles of armor and different styles of delicacies, cakes,
yeah. Treats, sweet rolls,
fried skeever, broiled skeever,
delicious. So. The Tumblr page is going to be a place where you can essentially, what they're saying is you're going to be able to use it. I really know nothing about Tumblr, so I'm relying specifically on the post. They're saying this is where you can check out concept art and screenshots and submit creations of your own. So if you have art, videos, music, or stories that you would like to share with people on the Elder Scrolls Online Tumblr page, you can submit that. And I guess, how does it work? Are they just going to approve it or not, basically?
Yeah, on Tumblr, you can submit stuff to people, and then they can retumble it. I don't know what you would call that, but then they can share it with other people.
Yeah.
So when I submit to them my Argonian made fanfics, they will of course put that there.
You need to. I need a sexy Spider Lady rendition done by you.
Oh,
or for you. Maybe someone could do it for Jesse. That'd be good.
That'll be down the line. That'll be like maybe episode 12 of my Argonian made fanfic series.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, some. I mean, if you're personally, I'm a big fan of high quality art, like done really well. So this is looking at concept art and stuff like that is something that I am really interested in. And sometimes you just get the most amazing fan creations. I remember when I was following Diablo 3 closely, some of the Diablo 3 fan submitted artwork was just unbelievable. So that it's always really cool to see that stuff. So this is something that I'm actually interested in, and I may have to actually check out the Elder Scrolls Online Tumblr to see sort of what ends up going through, what user creations they end up posting. It's exciting.
Nice.
Yeah. Question of the week. This week's question of the week, number 15 now, and what we're going to do, as we always do, is give it a quick listen and then respond. And actually, I'm not sure. I pre-watched this. I'm not sure I'm gonna have anything to say, but that's just because lore is in my bag. But anyways, why don't we give it a listen and then we'll give our thoughts on it. Okay, here we go.
Hi, my name's Tracy Seamster, and I'm a writer-designer with the Elder Scrolls Online, here with this week's Question of the Week. When you're traveling throughout Tamriel, through any of the Elder Scrolls games, you'll find books that have an immense amount of lore about the world in which you live. What's your favorite Elder Scrolls book?
What's so funny? That's
nothing.
That was a good delivery.
I pre-answered.
Okay.
That question.
All right.
Yeah, everyone in chat already knows what I'm going to say.
What's your answer, Jesse? This is all you because this is not my thing here.
The Lusty Argonian Maid series is the funniest series of books in any game ever. It's amazing.
So why don't you give, for the people at home who don't know about this this very highly prized series of books, why don't you give them a quick little recap?
It's erotic novels featuring Argonians in the world of Tamriel.
So it's basically, what's that for 50 Shades? It's 50 Shades of Skyrim?
It pretty much is, and it's really ham-fisted and silly, and it's like, she needed his loaf of bread. He's like, if you want it, come and get it.
No,
like,
is that really?
I swear to you,
Oh
it's
my
exactly, and it's not, but it's so over the top that it's just really funny.
That is funny, yeah.
And it's wonderful in every way. But one of the things I think that's great about the books is the fact that they. Someone posted a direct quote. It's like, "Here, polish my spear." Right?
So juvenile, but entertaining.
But there's actually a lot of really great books that tell you the actual legit lore that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And in Skyrim, for example, I collected every book and read almost every book just cause. And so I go around and find other books and be like, I've read it. I don't need to see that one. And eventually it just became like all the books were useless to me because I had gotten them all already.
You read through, like, individually? You read through all of them, really? Or all the ones you came across?
They're not like book
yeah, I mean, I guess
like
they're only like a few pages typically or whatever, but there are some fairly lengthy ones, a good 20 or so pages.
Well, a lot of it is stuff that relates to the world that you're in, and so it helps understand things and lore. Yeah. And, you know, especially if you're on a quest and you find a book related to said quest, it helps a lot to understand what's happening.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I just like, and the reason I said at the start of this, I'm not going to have it, because I never really read. I'd open the books quickly enough to get the skill point for them, and then I just closed them. Not that I'm not interested in reading, it's just, I guess I go to games for a different thing, and it really comes down to playstyle, and I think this is actually a good thing to talk about here, because I know so many people revel in the Elder Scrolls because of the rich lore and things like, you know, the mass volumes of books that they have that you can read through that go so in depth about the world that you're in. But that's something that has personally never interested me. I'm good with following main storylines and quest lines, but typically I'm much more interested in gameplay, mechanics, and combat and systems within the game than I am about the world and the story. And I still have, you know, a very fond memories of Elder Scrolls games, even just those aspects of it. Really, lore pretty much aside, that I'm still really, really into the Elder Scrolls series because I've enjoyed, you know, going through the worlds, experiencing the worlds, but typically aside from the story, besides things that are directly given to you through quests and stuff like that. So I think that's a testament to how these types of games can interest different people. Even if you're not interested in tons of lore or reading all the books, these games are still really awesome. So,
right.
Yeah, that's me. That's me personally.
Well, in Elder Scrolls Online, I know that there are books and you can find them, and they go into sort of a private book collection that you have that isn't a bookshelf, but you can access it. At least that's what it was when I was there.
Right. That's pretty neat. Yeah, it'll be exciting. And again, that's good that they're trying to carry that over, because I know that is a really big thing for a lot of people when it comes to the Elder Scrolls games, even if it isn't for me in particular. So there you go. And now we're going to be moving on to the major discussion point. We actually have a fairly decent amount of stuff to talk about this week because of a recent Ask Us Anything that was posted up on the official Elder Scrolls website discussing combat. There was actually a lot of things. Not only are they rehashing some things already new, but there's a lot of things that we didn't know in the past that they talked about here. So it's actually really exciting, because I think this is this podcast and this article, and specifically what we'll be talking about, is really helping to clarify how combat within the game is going to work and some of the systems that are in place. This is exactly the type of thing that I would expect to see as we come up to the beta and people are actually going to start getting their hands on the game. Just more detailed information is really, I know, what so many people are looking for. So why don't we go ahead and I'm going to try to take this probably point by point. There's a couple of questions that I think we're going to skip just because they're pretty basic stuff and there isn't much to talk about. But the first one, the first question coming in was asking about the soft locking system within the game. So the question is, can you please explain soft locking system in detail? For example, how does it interact with dodge? Does it apply to melee attacks or just ranged? During missile travel time, is it possible for another target to intervene between you and your existing soft target to take the attack? Okay, so the answer to that is that you must be facing your target to hit it. However, soft locking allows you to pick a target out of a crowd to hit. It is possible to your target could be behind another target. You would hit the target that you had soft locked, provided you were aiming at them. Another target couldn't step in the way of that and prevent you from hitting that. As for dodging, you can execute dodge rolls or evasion to avoid attacks. So let's take a look at this. So my only, I think this is my only really, I don't know, maybe it's not my only, but my most recent experience with a soft lock targeting system is in Neverwinter. So Neverwinter is an MMO. It's an action-focused MMO that's been going through these beta weekends. And Jesse, have you had an opportunity to play it at all?
No.
You haven't? Well, it's. I mean, I'm sure. Again, you played the Elder Scrolls Online last fall, so you obviously have a much clearer idea of how it exactly works, or at least anything you recollect from there. But basically, in Neverwinter, it's a system where you're moving around with your mouse, and you've got your crosshairs, and whatever you're going to hit, whether you're casting a spell or doing a melee attack, whatever you hit is whatever you're moused over. And then you can basically just move your mouse cursor, face another target, and hit that. So what they're talking about here is pretty much similar to what I believe, what I've experienced in Neverwinter. I believe it's like a similar soft target system. And they talk about missile projectiles, and this is a question I have, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, Jesse, but
yeah.
So you lock onto a target, and you cast a spell, and then say you cast a fireball. So you hit fireball, you've got your target, you're moused over, you hit fireball, right. Fireball goes towards a target. If someone steps in front of that fireball, then they're not going to block it. It's still going to hit your target. What I'm wondering is, when someone so you cast fireball, it's in projection, hits the target. If after casting fireball, there's a new enemy in front of the target that you hit with your first fireball, can you still hit the target behind them? Or because your mouse is over that target that's in front of you, the new target, are you only going to be able to hit him? Does that make sense? Like if someone goes in, like a tank goes in front of a healer to body block, you get one fireball off, but now that the tank's in front of the healer, can you target the guy behind the tank? Or will you be unable because he is blocking your cursor from getting to him? That's what I'm wondering.
I do not know. I would say that it might be wiser to figure that you would just have to move right or left.
Yeah.
Sort of flank around them.
Right.
Like if I was a programmer, that's the answer I would probably give. Like, you could just move. Like that would be my answer.
No, of course, but the body blocker could also move. That's what I'm wondering. If you're going to be able to, like, if you're playing with healers, that's I guess a perfect example. If you're a tank playing with healers and you've got ranged people that you're up against, are you going to be having to do this constant shimmy to absorb the damage, which actually I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, that might be where the strategy comes in.
Right.
Having the tanks in the front and actually, like, really legitimately using that strategy rather than we need one person to absorb all the damage and everyone else just spread about.
Because,
right?
Yeah. And that is neat because it does add that strategy. You know, if you look at other MMOs with a tab targeting system, I guess WoW's the perfect example. So I've got myself, an enemy in between the person I want to target and then the person I want to target. If there's someone in between us and I'm locked onto them first, I can just hit tab and then I'd go to the person behind them, the person that I want to hit. But in this system, if it works the way I believe it works, you won't be able to do that if the person is constantly in front of you trying to block your cursor from actually locking onto that person. So it does add like an extra level of strategy in sort of playing defensive and trying to do body blocking.
Well, I know for a fact that from what I played, since I played a melee character, I don't know how a player character would do some ranged attack. But seeing the different attacks, I know from what I remember, that when I went up against a bear, it had a giant like swipe, so it would stand up on its legs and like raise its arms up, and during that time, a little red area in front of it would appear, and I guess that was where it was gonna hit. And so you could get out of the hitbox, you could dodge out of the way, and then it would swing. But it wasn't too slow, but it wasn't too fast, like where you couldn't dodge. And then there were skeletons that had arrows, and they would shoot the arrows. And I just assumed because arrow mechanics, that's the way it would be. You can get out of the way of those pretty easily. And so I was curious if that works for magic abilities as well. Because I guess if you're firing a fireball, it would have the same sort of mechanics as an arrow, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically assuming here that any projectile-based, whether it's like an archer or a caster, is going to be dealing with that same ranged system. And so it'll be really... on one end, like we just talked about, it's cool because you've got strategy when you're defending against ranged people. On the other end, if you're the ranged person, that's going to blow because as long as the people you're fighting against are smart enough to stand in front of vulnerable targets like healers or glass cannons or whatever, then it's going to be impossible for you to pick them off. And typically that's like sort of what you're trying to do in like, let's just say in a PvP situation, but even in a PvE situation, you're typically trying to get whittle down those weaker targets, those softer targets that are usually standing in the back. But with the body blocking being capable, if it works the way we think it does here, that's going to be really annoying for ranged people. It could make things a little difficult, at least for ranged people trying to do single target attacks as opposed to like area of effect things. So
and I'm pretty sure we all know that in a PvP situation, you're not doing that much single targeting. I've been doing a lot of like world v world and big battlegrounds and things like that. Very few times is a mage-like character firing one fireball when they can just sit back and unload on an entire group of people. So I would say that might be more accurate.
Yeah.
We'll see, I guess.
It's interesting, and it definitely, I think it's going to make a big difference as to I guess how viable, because that's one of my concerns for the range characters like archers and stuff, is that with a soft targeting system, it might be really frustrating. I mean, if you're a melee character, it doesn't matter. You need to be in front of your target regardless. Like you need to be right on top of your target to hit them regardless. So it's not as much of an issue dealing with body blocking. Sure, people could try to squeeze their way in between you and the person you're going for, but then you can, I don't know. It's just going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it works out.
But keep in mind, remember, you have multiple weapons, you have multiple ways of attacking, so it may be a little bit more complicated than just I'm ranged and I can't hit you with ranged abilities. There might be some way that, you can pull them towards you, or you can knock a guy out of the way. A really good example is on my Dragon Knight. If a guy was too far away, you could just yank his ass back to you. And then the minute they got to you, you could instantly hit them with one of your other abilities, which was a stun. So if they tried to run again, good luck. Right? And so maybe that is the kind of thing with, say, a mage. We don't know any of this, mind you, but if there's an ability where you can make a guy get the F out the way, then maybe that's useful.
Move.
Or, move! Or maybe it's all about more strategy. So while you and some of your buddies are going at these guys head on, you have 4 or 5 guys come from behind and take out all the... I mean, I assume it's going to make for an incredibly fun Cyrodiil battleground, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I'm really excited for too. Be it PvP or PvE, I think that this type of combat system, one of the biggest problems that I feel that people have with modern day MMOs, besides the setting and stuff like that, is just the way combat plays out. And I think a soft targeting system is going to be a nice change of pace over the tab targeting system that people are used to, because I think it's not that it makes for more, like you need to be more situationally aware, but maybe positioning is a little bit more important. Well, no, not even maybe, it is a little bit more important, specifically when dealing with range characters, be it friends or foe. You know what I mean? Positioning will be a little bit more important. It's still important in tab targeting systems where you position line of sighting and stuff like that, trying to kite melee characters. All those things are obviously very important, but it's even more so in a system like this, which I think is going to be exciting. And at least for me personally, it'll be a nice change of pace to the traditional tab targeting system that have been in most major MMOs that I've played, specifically Star Wars: The Old Republic and, of course, World of Warcraft. So yeah, I think it'll be nice. I think it'll be a nice change there. Moving on from discussion of soft targeting, another major point that was discussed was the Holy Trinity. So it does appear that the Holy Trinity is going to exist, but at the same token, they're talking about how you don't really need to sit within those confined lines to be capable or to complete a dungeon. So let's go ahead and read through this here. Question was, how important is the Holy Trinity in PvE endgame raids? Will dedicated tanks and healers be required, or will lighter armor characters be able to utilize the dodge system well enough to serve as competent tanks? Will healers need to focus entirely on healing, or will more offensive spellcasters be able to sustain a group via spot heals? And so they responded with this, a little bit of an email they got from one of their internal testers at the end of February. And the email basically says, so they, at level 12, which is fairly early on in the game, at level 12, a group of 4 people, one was a Templar with light armor and a healing staff, focusing on healing. One was a Templar with light armor, dual wielding, focusing on healing. One was a Dragon Knight with light armor and a destruction staff, and one was a sorcerer with heavy armor, dual wielding. So as you take a look at that list, none of these people are I guess, filling what you'd consider traditional roles. They're sort of mixing and matching, like a Dragon Knight with a destruction staff. Like what? Light armor and destruction staff. So no one here, besides the sorcerer, no one was wearing heavy armor, and the email says, it took some time, but we were able to complete the dungeon. Now, on one hand, that sounds cool, right? They're like, okay, so you can sort of do like this mix and match, and you don't need a dedicated Dragon Knight heavy armor tank with a shield and a sword, and you don't need a sorcerer who's going light armor range to complete a dungeon. At first glance, someone might look at that and be like, all right, this is evidence that they're doing things right. But I look at this and I'm like, you guys did a level 12 dungeon. Like I could do, damn, what was that place called in, was it the Dead Mines? There's like some early, like in any MMO, WoW or otherwise, early level dungeons, you can just face roll. Like it's always stupid. Like no one needs to focus on anything. I could go into early level dungeons in WoW with all rogues or something and complete it. Like this, I don't think this is a good evidence to show that you're going to be able to play these sort of hybrid characters in high-end PvE, because this is not an example of that being accomplished. This is an example of people face-rolling a low-level dungeon. Do you agree with that, Jesse, or do you think that this is good evidence to hybrid characters in the game? Oh, did I lose you, Jesse?
I'm here, hi.
Oh, I couldn't hear you, sorry.
No, I got disconnected from you there.
Oh.
So that's the thing. Anyway, like you were saying, I think we're probably seeing things through a rosy-colored glasses, tinted vision of the past.
Tinted roses, yeah.
Sounds like a great book name, Tinted Roses. Because if you remember, I think a lot of us think back over the last 2 or 3 years when it comes to a game like WoW, for example. But if you remember 7 years ago, or I guess going on 8 now, those early dungeons were still very hard for people who were using like white gear and things like that. So you have to assume an MMO just starting out, it could still be challenging. So I wouldn't hate on them for doing it at level 12. What I have a problem with is that the line of, for the sake of the dungeon, we could have truly, they could have used a real tank, but eventually they went on and they beat the boss. And
yeah, they're basically admitting that they were able to do it, but it took more time.
And that's something I don't think a lot of MMO players at this point in the MMO cycle of gaming are willing to give. They're not willing to give that much time, and so I think a lot of people yeah, you can make some really awful builds in other MMOs and beat stuff eventually. But are people going to sit through it and tolerate someone who's like, I'm going to play the sorcerer in heavy armor and I'm going to dual wield? People are going to be like, what is your malfunction? Yeah, get out.
Yeah.
And so you might have friends who are like, that's cool, you're going to be an awesome dual wielding heavy armored sorcerer. But, you know, if I was in a group and two of them were labeled as Templars who are focusing on healing, I'd be like, why are you here? Leave. What? I need a tank, right? I feel like in this scenario, I understand what they did. They went in with like two healers, and one guy's going to heal but also attack, and then you get. But at the same time, anyone who's like, I'm going to have fun and be creative, I don't know if the MMO community will tolerate that. Which sucks, but it's a fact.
Yeah, and that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was another point that I was, besides like me thinking, okay, well, it's an early game dungeon, so I don't know how much evidence this goes to support how late game is going to be, because typically early game is so much easier, but you make a good point that it may be super difficult. It may like scale, essentially. But the other thing is that just because it's possible doesn't mean that people are going to accept it, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's self-admitting in the email, we were able to do it. We could have used a tank. Would have been great. We were able to eventually kill the fungal grotto bosses. It just took a little bit of time. And that just says, okay, so this means ideally people are, just for example, Dragonite heavy armor tank. You're a sorcerer light armor with a destruction staff. Like that's how people are going to want to make up their groups, which understandably so. Like Jesse said, people typically don't, they don't want to make things more difficult. Path of least resistance, they don't want to make things more difficult than need be. So,
and I figure what I'm gonna end up doing, because I really want to go a mage character, a sorcerer. I want to create a a battle mage. Like that's what I want to do. I know it might not be the most effective, but that's my goal by the end of this, is to play a mage character who wears heavy armor and does have a weapon that can slice and cut things. Like that's my objective. If I can get a staff and a sword, that'd be even better. I'd feel great about that. But one of the things that I think is key here is that if they want this system to work, where you can be whoever you want and do whatever you want, it has to be effective in really tough situations. Now, for a mage, I assume I can get the armor and the weapons that still buff my abilities enough where I can do the proper amount of damage.
And we're actually we're going to be talking about armor, because depending on the armor that you wear, it's going to have an effect on your character's abilities. Basically, heavy armor is tailored towards tankiness, and light armor is tailored towards spellcasters.
Right.
Like this.
You're right. You're right.
So again, it'll be like if you, Jesse, if you want to do a battle mage, so let's just say a heavy armor sorcerer. If that were something that you wanted to do, because of your heavy armor, you would be getting tanky style abilities, which if your primary goal in the group is to do damage, it's essentially a waste. And it's one of those things, like we talked about hybrids before. For solo experiences, it's fantastic. It can actually be ideal to go hybrid. But for min-maxing group play, people are going to say GTFO. Again, they're going to be like, what are you doing? You're essentially throwing away extra spell damage, just as throwing that out there as an example. You're basically giving up spell damage because you want to wear heavy armor. Like, that doesn't make sense. We're going to find a caster who's not doing that,
Right. But with that said, if you just want to go down to that one right now,
we can do that. So what we're talking,
I like the answer given there.
Right. So what we're talking about, where the different armor types. The question is, how will different armor types be balanced? Why would everyone not wear heavy armor? The answer is each armor type has a progression system associated with it. So if you were to go down the light armor progression line, basically sort of like in Skyrim, you wear light armor, you engage in combat with it, you get light armor progression. You get bonuses to spells, magic regeneration, and the like. Medium armor will give you bonuses to stamina, dodge, and sneak, so basically your rangers or rogues. Heavy armor will give you bonuses. Heavy armor skill lines will give bonuses to healing and bracing. So bracing is like I'm assuming the tanking system, etc. And of course, armors can have magical properties beyond this as well. So they're basically saying, if you want to be ideal, light armor is your casters, medium is your rangers and rogues, and heavy armor is your tanks. But it also says healing, so maybe they're going to have like a sort of a paladin style of thing where like heavy armor healers.
They also say you can mix and match, so you don't have to wear. Although, again, I don't know why you would be a tank and wear something that probably has less armor, for example. You know, I'm not going to judge you, but you're probably going to get us killed, kind of thing.
I mean, and there's like, I guess there will be some leniency though, because medium armor gives stamina and dodge. So what if you want to be a high stamina dodging tank, but also get some bracing? So the way I'm assuming this is going to work is like Skyrim, where you wear it, you're in combat, and you progress through it. So if you want to progress as quickly as possible, maybe you wear all heavy armor at the start. But maybe once you're maxed out on all heavy armor, you start wearing some medium armor if you want to throw in some stamina and dodge into the mix as well. And what I also wonder is if there will be bonuses attributed to having a full set of something, which is something they do in Skyrim as well. If you have a full set of heavy armor, you get extra bracing.
Right.
Or something like that.
I don't know. And I think that's going to be the key to figuring out how to play this game when we get the chance, is because right now there's a lot of potential for different things you can do, but until people are actually playing it, it's all just potential. I mean, there's potential to do a lot of things in a lot of games, but half the time it's just not feasible.
Yeah.
And the other half, it's just stupid to do it. Like, sure, okay, yeah, I'm gonna make this character this way, but why waste your time? Because you're never gonna get to do anything that requires a group, because no one's going to invite you. Even your friends will eventually be like, how about you make something useful?
I mean, you will hear the question, why are you such a noob? Like, you'll hear that. People are like, why are you being, like, don't be a noob. Like, what are you doing? Like, that doesn't make... But on the same token, the great thing, again, about this series is that there are going to be people who just play by themselves and they focus on the solo experience. And if you do that, you could do whatever you please, and you're not going to have to deal with those people being annoyed with you, essentially. And that's also, this is one of those situations. So it's like an elitist mentality where, like, oh, if you're not having an ideal build, you're not invited to the group. You're primarily going to deal with that in like high-end PvE stuff. If you're going in the Cyrodiil and you just want to PvP with whatever build and whatever combination of stuff, more power to you. When you're soloing, more power to you. You won't have to deal with that. But there's the very nature of that sort of high-end content. People are going to have that mentality, at least the top groups. I mean, I guess there's it takes all kinds, right? So there's going to be all sorts of people, all different sorts of groups of people doing PvE and PvP, and maybe people out there. In fact, I guarantee people out there will find groups that'll be okay with that. But
think about the mentality of just human beings. Everyone wants to feel like they belong, and everyone wants to feel like they also can do whatever they want to do, especially in a fantasy world. And so, in order to do whatever you want to do, sometimes you have to give up your freedom of making a crazy character with making a character that's viable to get access to things to be able to do whatever you want to do.
Right.
So, if I want to go to a certain area, I might have to give up being a wacky battle mage in order to be just a normal mage who is a glass cannon, something like that. Like, I might have to give up that dream in order to get to see cool things in the game and do things.
And doesn't that suck though too? Like, we're sitting here arguing for, or at least saying, hey, this is how it's going to be because this is how it's always been. But I don't know how. I'm not a game designer. I don't know how someone could do it, but I really wish there were a way. But again, because ideals exist, that's what people are always going to focus on, and that's what they're always going to want in that group setting. But it would be great because I've had a sort of a similar experience in games before where I've been like, yeah, I'm gonna try this crazy build, and then after playing the game for a few months and then a couple of years, and you're eventually like, I can't do that. No one wants me in their group, so I need to go with the standard stuff because it's the ideal. And then you eventually I eventually just like give up on my dream build or whatever. Just like, oh, whatever, I'm not gonna do that. Because it's not the best thing, and it's not going to put me in the best possible situation to win a PvP battle or to complete a PvE dungeon.
Right.
Kind of sucks. Like, I wish
something that they need to consider when launching this game. I hope that during beta we get to see exactly what goes on, because if there's anyone who would love to be told otherwise via great gameplay, you are looking at him.
Yeah.
I definitely want to be able to be proven wrong on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wonder if the very nature of how these games are designed, if it's even capable. The existence of an ideal basically drives away anything that's not ideal. I feel that that's the case, and I don't think that there's been evidence in games otherwise, games of this nature, big MMOs where group play is so important. So who knows? That's not a problem that I'm going to be solving on this podcast, that's for sure.
Right. And I think it has to do with balancing as well.
Yeah.
I think, whatever they balance the game around, that's what people will view as optimized.
Yeah.
So if they balance the game around a sorcerer with heavy armor, dual wield, and a party with a dragon knight with light armor and a destruction staff and 2 Templars who are healing, if they balance the game around that, then you have the ability to be free and fun and crazy. But at the same time, those super optimal, we have a tank, a healer, and 2 DPS parties, they are going to be just wrecking stuff. And
right.
so
yeah.
then those people, aka the high-end raiders and things like that, they will complain that it's too easy and there's no content. So, again, welcome to creating an MMO, the hardest thing in the world.
And I think, I don't want to dwell on this for too long, but I think one of the primary problems is if you try to have these hybrid characters who are essentially self-sustainable, like you take a look at Guild Wars 2, like every character had a heal. One of the big problems, I think, that I personally had and that I heard echoed in a portion of the community was that PvE was sort of just like a Zerg fest because there weren't these set roles and people were just sort of doing whatever because everyone could heal. And without those roles, without the Holy Trinity, it just became just everyone attack the boss, and there's no thought process put into it. And maybe that's one of the problems, and maybe that's why these sort of like hybrid builds have a harder time in these type of games. But again, I don't have the answer to that or resolutions at all. So moving on, with this next thing I'm actually kind of excited for, and this is making me almost want to make a healer. We'll see. I've played healers in MMOs before, and I think especially if you've got a good group of people, that can be really fun. If you're healing a bunch of idiots, that can really suck. But healing, the way it's going to work in this game is area of effect based. So what's going to happen is the question was with the target system being the way it is, the soft lock system, how is this going to work for raids or large PvP groups for healers? Will healers have a hard time finding players and keeping track of their group's health? So the question that you had basically is, because the way we target people, am I going to have to mouse my crosshairs over anyone that I want to heal? And what's that going to mean when there's 100 people around me and I need to heal this one guy who's low, but there's 15 people between me and him? How does that work? Well, the way it's going to happen is that the healing is largely area of effect based. There's basically, you don't target your allies. Most of the heals are AoEs or cone effects. So essentially you'll heal all around you or you'll heal in a cone in front of you, in a sense. Nice. And to be effective as a healer, you're going to need to be right in the middle of things. And to heal around you or in front of you. And that, I like that. I like the idea of a healer that's right in the thick of things. And that goes back when they talked about the armor, the heavy armor will affect healing. So this makes me think that the way the healers are going to work in this game is going to be sort of more, it's going to be a heavy armor. I'm in the middle of the thicket sort of healing. I think that's cool. That sounds fun. And that makes me actually want to play a healer much more than I would otherwise.
Right, and I'm sure what's going to happen to balance it is there's going to be increased cooldowns on heals, for example. So, sure, you can heal like 5 guys at once, but you can't repeatedly spam that. Mm-hmm. Or, I guess you can, but then your magicka depletes.
Right, you'll run out of.
That's right. They don't have cooldowns. Never mind. Your cooldown is your magicka disappearing. So
typically like that's how they limit things. You have either a resource that depletes or you've got a cooldown, and that's how they balance. So I guess it'll just be if you try to spam like that, you're gonna run out of resource.
Because you have regen, you have magicka regen that will happen, but you need magicka in order to cast it. So you can spam like crazy, but then eventually, okay, nice. I think I just answered a question that I had in my mind to myself.
Okay.
I feel good about
Can
that.
you answer it out loud?
No, I was just curious if it would have cooldowns on spells, and I
Right.
guess some will, but most of your heals won't necessarily have it.
Yeah.
Even though they're AoE, which it makes sense to have cooldowns on stuff because you're healing multiple people. Not necessarily. I don't think you would need to, because you could essentially just keep spamming it till you run out, and that's your cooldown. Like, guess what? Now you're screwed.
And it's funny because you mentioned like magic regeneration, and taking a look back at when they were talking about armor, this makes us think that mixing and matching might be a viable thing, because magicka regen comes through light armor. So if you're a healer, you want your healing from heavy armor, but if you want to be able to constantly heal, you might want some light armor to get some more magicka regeneration.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool. It's got potential. I'll be really, really interested to see how this plays out. And this is I think one of the really exciting things about MMOs and RPGs, as well as when these systems first come into play and these games first come out, the learning experience, the process of learning the ideals or the best way to do things. I think that'll be really cool. I mean, I do almost hope that a mix and match system would be ideal, as opposed to everyone, certain types just wearing all heavy, certain types just wearing all light. I hope that they balance it in a way that that mixing and matching will be cool. But yeah, that just sounds cool to me. Like AoE healing sounds like it's fun, and still being able to be right in combat sounds like that could be a lot more fun than sitting in the back and tossing up heals. Like I've done in other MMOs, which just certainly gets boring after a time, because you're just staring at the UI and just spamming heals at whoever's low, basically.
Yep.
Boring. All right, we got just a couple more things to talk about here before we wrap things up. Another thing discussed in the article was PvP skill. Where's the skill going to come from in PvP was basically the question. And the answer was there's a huge amount of skill in how you build your character. So what abilities you have on your shortcut bar, what consumables you have at your disposal, like healing and magicka potions, how you allocate your health, magicka, and stamina. So basically which ones you're maxing, min-maxing, and all sorts of things, the type of armor and weapons that you're using, and where you place your skill points. And then once in combat, some of the big skill differences are going to come from using your spells and abilities at the right time so you don't waste magicka, spamming AoE heals, for example, dodging or blocking at the right moment to make your opponent waste their magicka, coordinating your healing and crowd controlling with your teammates, fighting near cover, line of sighting sort of deal, recognizing when you need to swap to your alternate weapons, and then using area of denial spells to defend choke points and break up formations. So a couple of things in this list. One thing that I think is really cool is the weapon swapping. So weapons are going to have skills associated with them. This is basically what Guild Wars 2 did. You had a weapon and you got set skills with it, and then if you swap that weapon, you'd have a different set of skills. Now, beyond that, beyond the weapon skills, Elder Scrolls Online is going to have individual skills as well on top of the weapon skills, but you're going to have that again, similar Guild War 2 system. Now, personally, it's sort of like you've got these two different weapons, and it's I just always consider them, I don't know the best way to say this, I guess it just kind of sounds stupid and basic, but it's just like two different sets of skills, right? Like that's how, when I played Guild Wars 2, that's what I did. I played as a necromancer, and I think I had like a two-handed staff and a wand and offhand, and they were just two sets of skills, and you're just swapping between them, and it seems like that's basically exactly what's going to happen here in ESO as well. What about you, Jesse? Do you like the weapon swapping system? Did you use that much in Guild Wars 2?
In Guild Wars 2, no, because the characters I picked always had weapons that were specifically better than anything else.
Right, sure, yeah.
For example, the engineer, right? Like, you only had two choices, really. And so, in this game, though, I think this is a great question, and the answer is good, because I think it answers what we talked about earlier, where we were talking about how you would break up guys who are protecting other guys and things like that. Mm-hmm. And it's basically the answer that we had given, which is, look, if you want to stop guys from doing tactical stuff, out-tactics them. I think is what they're saying here.
Right. Yeah, no, and it's exciting for me personally, because I am a big fan of PvP. That's what I mostly like in MMOs and RPGs in general. And it's good to see that they've got some ideas as to how the skill differences are going to work depending on how you spec your character, how you play, and then just the things that you do in combat. And then the only last point that I was going to talk about, we've already just covered here, is that's the fact that different weapons are going to have different abilities, sort of like it worked in the Guild Wars 2 system. So that's a thing that's going to exist in this game as well. But once again, like I mentioned, beyond your weapon abilities, you're also going to have individual abilities. So all of your skills aren't just tied to your weapon. There's also going to be an additional progression system that you get skills for the character that you're playing as well. So there you go. And I guess that's going to do it for this week's episode. Well, let me check real quick. I don't know if we have any Facebook questions this week. We got a couple of them. We can answer a couple of them. All right, first question here from the Facebook page. If you don't know, we ask you guys to post questions over on our Facebook page here, and we're going to try to answer them at the end of the podcast every week. First question here coming in from Isaac. He asked, do you think the endgame PvE scene will look like, what do you think it'll look like in the Elder Scrolls? Could it be compared to its counterparts in WoW, Rift, or Star Wars The Old Republic? In terms of comparison, I to be honest, I don't really know that I have an answer for that. I mean, as far as we know, they're going to be. We got an example in this week's Q&A thing that we just went over talking about combat, where they're talking about a 4-person party. So I guess at the very least, we're going to be having 4-people parties. Were there any dungeons or anything that you did when you played, or was it just all open sort of stuff?
It was all. I mean, there was one. I want to say dungeon, but I don't think anyone got to it. I don't. Yeah, it was all open.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I guess the answer is I don't know, and maybe that's the problem with these ending Q&A things, that stuff like that, like the end game PV. I'm really not sure. We know that they're going to have raid equivalents. There's going to be like big dungeons, and then we also know that they're going to have smaller group dungeons of, I guess, like 4 players, based on what we got this week. That information of that group of 4 that went through and took their dandy time through that low level dungeon. So yeah,
all the dungeons, all of it will, all that endgame stuff will be in Cyrodiil.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll all affect the world battle, the dungeons, and the raids, and then those open, like, I guess go in by yourself, have some fun with randoms areas. All those affect the overall control of Cyrodiil and the battle waging in the overworld.
Right.
So that we know. Other than that, we don't know anything.
Yeah, that's basically it. And yeah, that's going to do it. We're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. So the new format, I guess for now, we're going to plan to just do this right here on Twitch until I figure things out with YouTube, or maybe we'll just keep it on Twitch indefinitely. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. We'll find out. Really exciting coming up within the next couple of weeks. We're going to actually get a chance to play the game at PAX East, which is just a few weeks away now. So I'm still planning on attending that. I know Jesse's going to be there as well. So at least after that event, we're going to have a lot to talk about. Can't wait. And I really hope for your sake that it's not the same stuff that you already saw. That'd be annoying.
Yeah, I can play another character.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not too concerned about it.
It'll be exciting nonetheless. And also, just as a reminder, they do plan to start beta testing sometime at the end of this month, which is also within the next couple of weeks. So definitely an exciting time. Really, really looking forward to getting my hands on the game. Thanks, guys, so much for watching. Tune in next week for another episode of the ESO Cast, your Elder Scrolls Online podcast. For Jesse, this has been Dennis. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye.